time, and there's a slight delay. Didn't happen, but it did.
no one else can hear.
So that's why I wanted to clarify.
I think trial is a good thing. Like,
Well, hello, my friend. How are you?
how are you, Jacob?
Back to Carolyn.
He started a job. He started a job. Yeah.
If it doesn't pass,
Right there, on that.
I'm going to bring this meeting to order. Rapid City Area Schools, November 2nd. Roll call, please.
Kate Thomas,
Here.
Gabe Doney,
Here.
Jim Hansen,
Present.
Deb Baker,
Here.
Clay Colomb, he will be arriving late, Amy Polisky,
Here.
Brianna Funke,
Here.
Abby Rutan,
Here.
Hayden Bentz.
Here.
All right, invocation, Pastor James Moore from the Journey Church. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we are so absolutely grateful for our leadership. We're so thankful for our president and this board. Lord, those you've placed here, we know that no one in leadership is there without being placed by you. Lord, tonight, more than anything, we ask that each one of these members and our superintendent and staff, Lord, would feel the presence of God, would be blessed tonight to know that we appreciate them and, Lord, that you have your hand on them. We pray that every person speaking tonight would have the presence of the Lord, and the presence of the Lord would not leave here, but we'd be blessed tonight with the spirit of unity and grace, peace of God and strength, but wisdom and discernment. Lord, we know that Saul failed in his leadership because he failed to inquire of God in his decisions. So, Lord, we don't want to make that mistake tonight. We earnestly seek you tonight for your wisdom and counsel. Bless this meeting and all involved. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I'm at approval of the agenda. I need a first and second.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Brianna and Amy. All right, roll call. All right,
I have a comment.
okay.
About the resolution to close Grandview. I have an amendment to that resolution. Would you like it now, or?
I think at the time that it comes up,
Okay.
we'll pull it and then make the amendment and
Very good.
motion then.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, same sign, it's approved. Let's go to persons wishing to address the board. We have 20 people. At 5 minutes is going to be too long, so I am going to need, let's see, 2 minutes to make it.
Madam President,
Yes.
I make a motion that we go to 2 minutes so we can go 40 minutes and do it all, or we split it and give them 3 minutes, and the first half during the 30 minutes, and then the rest when we get done with our meeting. But I would go with 2 minutes apiece.
So we'll need to vote on extending the time regardless. I would say,
I threw that out for discussion.
right, all right, so I need a motion to do one or the other. Does anybody want to discuss it? Suggestions? We have 20.
Jim, did you motion?
Nope,
Okay.
threw it out for discussion.
Okay. I guess I'll throw this out for discussion, or I'll motion that we give everybody at least 3.5 minutes and just have all discussion prior, at this point, not split it in half.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
She'll need a second. Okay, for lack of a second, we won't do that. Any other suggestions? 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and do all prior?
2.5 and do it all.
Second.
All right, we need a vote to extend the time then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, first person, are you ready? Morgan Bias? I'm sorry, I can't read the writing. Or Peggy?
Margaret Bias.
Margaret?
I'm here to, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm here to ask essentially the same question I have asked you in email, and I asked you September 7th at the Board of Education meeting, and I've gotten no response. And so I ask it again. People in groups with whom some of you are affiliated have a stated goal, their words not mine, of the abolition of the Department of Education. Is this also your goal? Why are you here? Are you here for students, or are you here to further a political agenda? Tonight, there's a resolution to leave the Associated School Boards of South Dakota, not because they sent a letter, but because someone else did. Concerns were expressed about threats of violence at a school board meeting, not against impassioned parents, not against freedom of speech, against threats of violence. What I don't see on the agenda is anything to address some of the significant problems we have in our district. We don't have enough subs. We don't have enough bus drivers. We don't have enough teachers. We have staff and students seriously ill in the hospital with COVID. We have students in crisis for a variety of reasons. We have buildings crumbling in need of replacement or repair, and none of those items are on the agenda. Were you aware that, not including noon duty or extracurricular contracts, we have over 150 unfilled positions in this district? If you didn't know that, why not? It is posted on the website. Are you doing anything about that? Do you care? And if so, how are we supposed to know that? So, I ask again, why are you here? I will be happy to share my remaining time if any of you would like to respond.
This is not the time that we actually respond.
Madam President, I am well aware of that, but you all don't respond to emails. You don't respond to questions. How are we supposed to get answers?
Ask the administration, because that is their duty.
I'm asking you as a board member, what is your agenda?
That's what we delegate her to do. So you need to ask the administration.
I'm aware of their agenda. I'm asking you. So they're going to answer for you?
We hired her. She's running the whole school.
Okay. So she knows if you're here for a political agenda and if your goal is the abolition of the Department of Education.
Enough. Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you again. I look forward to an email or a public statement from any of you.
Peyton Schoenhals.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Peyton Schoenhals and I am a student teacher from Chadron State College. I'm here today to thank the board, the teachers, the administrators, and my students for allowing me to have this opportunity to come and finish my college degree here in the Rapid City Public School District. The experience has taught me so much that I do not have time to share with you today. Even growing up in this area, your students have taught me to think on my feet, be kind to others, and all the cultures that are within our school district. I was able to work with 5th grade students at South Canyon Elementary this year, and even in the 3 months that I have been with these 5th graders, I have seen them grow tremendously. Even with the hardship of COVID that they have all faced, I have seen them grow not only academically, but as people. I am so thankful that I have been able to have this experience, and I hope that everyone knows just how special each and every one of our students are in this school district. And I cannot wait to further my personal career here in the Rapid City School System.
Thank you. Florence Thompson.
Good evening. My name is Florence Thompson. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education.
and I'm also a retired school psychologist with over 40 years' experience as a psychologist in the school. I'll try to talk fast. I'm going to speak about medical mandates being medical tyranny, and I brought along a visual aid just to illustrate my point. This is Dr. Ouchie. Dr. Ouchie and his conflicting dictates have promoted a panic and is pushing the whole world into an involuntary medical experiment. Many other countries follow the US CDC recommendations. All humans on Earth are to be inoculated as soon as possible with a dangerous genetic treatment which will permanently alter their God-given DNA. All of this under the guise of an emergency. As of now, deaths from the so-called vaccine dwarf the deaths by COVID, which the so-called vaccine does not prevent. Now they want to inoculate all the children who are not even in danger. Why? Why? Why the children? We know that Dr. Ouchie and his cohorts are making billions of dollars. We know that the hospitals are being forced and incentivized to use expensive treatments, which many medical professionals do not support. Even school policies are dictated by Dr. Ouchie through the local medical establishment. Americans and others have had enough. Parents have had enough. Our God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are being infringed, and we will not tolerate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Haywood Robinson.
Thank you. I'm deeply concerned with the vision of the education that this district is now exhibiting. It seems to be a rule by restriction. Where exactly is the freedom? Where exactly is the liberty? You seem at cross purposes with your stated goals. When you ran for office, all I heard was about an increase in transparency, more responsiveness to the public, and fiscal responsibility. Yet here we sit in a building that costs the district money, admits less people, and unless I miss something, less emails answered than any board I can remember. I would like to take this time to address what seems to be the new normal of the board, this rule of restriction. Do you feel that you are actually making progress, and how? Because education is served through many means, by staff to student ratio, educational excellence, functioning facilities, and provision of the public. And I don't hear much about staffing solutions. I don't hear much about educational shortfalls and how to meet them. Functioning facilities, crickets. Provisions to the public, I wish. I'm sick of this board bickering about what shouldn't be done, this restriction. What shouldn't be done to protect our students and staff and public? What shouldn't be done? We shouldn't be teaching, whether or not any teacher is actually using the offending curriculum. What books shouldn't be taught? And now what organizations you have served us well in the past shouldn't we be a part of? What I need you to start doing is say what you are for, because freedom as its core is a willingness to protect the rights of others that wish to live differently than you. And libraries are for reading of books, not a place to deny access of interest or even contradiction. It seems to me that you keep ruling by restrictions because you either A, have ugly plans for our future, or B, don't know what you are doing. Please be careful that you do not use the Lord's word to do the devil's work.
Thank you. Kyle Kraus.
Hello, my name's Kyle Kraus, concerned parent of children who either are or will be in the district. Speaking just on behalf of myself tonight. Used to be said that all politics is local. Unfortunately, it seems that all politics is becoming national. I think much to the detriment of us all. Later tonight, there's a resolution on the agenda here to remove our district from the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. The justification for that is basically that the association did not comment forcefully enough on a national political controversy. I'd suggest that this focus on national politics is quite misguided. Instead, this board has a duty to focus on what's in the best interest of this district and our students. A decision such as whether to leave the Associated School Boards of South Dakota should be made based upon well-considered analysis of the costs and benefits of membership. As best I can tell, every single one of the 185 public school districts in South Dakota is a member of the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. So it would seem that there's probably some sort of benefit there. The benefits I've been able to figure out researching and drafting school policies, like the medical marijuana policy on the consent agenda for later tonight. The tracking and research of legal issues, policy issues, and social trends that are relevant to schools. Bill tracking and legislative advocacy in peer. Offering training and educational materials to school board members on their duties, such as overseeing the responsibilities of the superintendent. And a job board that is quite heavily used by educators in South Dakota. If our district is going to forego these services, it should have a plan in place for how it will deal with that. Policy research and drafting alone, I can tell you as a lawyer, is really expensive. Pay any lawyer $250 an hour to draft things and your bills are going to run up real fast. If you have board members have not done the sort of cost-benefit analysis that I'm talking about here, then you haven't done your jobs, and I'd suggest your decision needs to be based on that.
Thank you. Phil Jensen.
Representative Phil Jensen, District 33. Thank you for serving our community and doing such a fine job for the kids. I appreciate that very much. I would just like to encourage you to vote to withdraw our membership in the South Dakota School Board Association. Merrick Garland, our Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, failed miserably when he failed to rebuke the National School Board Association when they referred a letter to him calling parents who show up to school board meetings as domestic terrorists. You will be setting a great example by withdrawing from this association, and I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Udiger.
My name is Tom Udiger, and I want to thank you very much for allowing the citizens of Rapid City to express themselves before your meeting. And I want to echo Phil Jensen's comments. Thank you, Brianna, for bringing attention to the action of the National School Board Association. Their request of the federal government to interfere in the right of citizens to present their grievances before our local school boards is an overreach too far. It's an effort to neutralize local law enforcement. The same attempt is happening with defund the police. That's the movement du jour that's going on right now. It's an attempt to bring chaos to communities so that the federal government will be justified in establishing law enforcement in our cities. Their action will be the end of any dissent of government overreach. I think we have to be vigilant, even as a local association, as a local school board. We have to be vigilant of national issues, and you've done that. You're doing your homework. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tanchi Reaver.
Good evening, Board. I also want to speak about the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. You're correct. They have not made a public statement distancing themselves or separating themselves from the NSBA. And what we need to understand is money from this district, and not an insignificant amount, goes to pay dues to this organization. Now, you've heard about all the value that they bring to you, but I would posit the idea that you really don't need those services. There are many policies available online. I've looked at the marijuana policy. There's no reason that the attorneys that you pay anyway couldn't have written that policy. As far as the state funding aid formula goes, everything that you need to understand the state funding, and anybody else in this room for that matter, is on the state legislative website. The PowerPoint is there, the briefing is there, you can listen to the audio. If you think it's valuable, I would suggest instead that you send one of your administrators. I would suggest maybe your COISAS, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Is it Sassy? Okay, sorry about that, Coy. He might be a good person to sit in on that at the beginning of legislative session. So there's that. Also, it seems that the narrative is that there's no transparency. I would suggest that the fact that you are here, you are listening to people come to this microphone is transparency. I have in the past had problems getting responses from emails too, but I realize that generally it's because you get so many of them. And I don't take it personally or as an affront if I don't get a response. I will try again if I need to. In the past, even people I have disagreed with have responded to me. So I really don't see that as an issue here. Again, everything that the school, that ASBSD does for you is available in other arenas. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would expand on that at a later time.
All right. Renon Rupert? Rion Rupert?
I just wanted to say thank you to this school board. I went to Gabe's town hall last night, and I came away very encouraged, and came away with seeing the heart of what I think this school board is doing, and trying to open up communication between the schools and the parents and the district. And so I was very thankful. And so then I afterwards talked to Gabe for just a few minutes about the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. And I didn't get an agenda from him. He said he was looking into it and that he was looking at the best way to go. And it was like, works for me, research it, because I don't understand a lot of that. But then I went online today, and I was really, really saddened by what I read and what you guys are being subjected to. I couldn't believe what I was reading. And when these people are saying civility is gone and they're pointing the finger at you guys, I wish they could take a step back and read what they're writing and what they are doing. And so I did find this where it said Wade Pogany, Executive Director of the Associated School Boards of South Dakota, in a telephone interview that the Associated School Board does not agree with the letter, including its call for federal law enforcement assistance. What the National School Boards has done is a mistake, Pogany said. We were not consulted. We were not aware of this letter until it was sent out. Pogany said the Associated School Board of South Dakota is working with the National School Boards Association that this doesn't happen again. He said also that regarding any threats or disorderly conduct, we have encouraged local school boards to work with law enforcement. I thank you, Brianna, for bringing this resolution. I thank you guys for bringing this up front, because
It's time.
what the National School Board is doing is wrong.
That's time. Thank you. Michael Berkland. Michael Berkland.
Hello, I'm Michael Berkland. I taught at Central High School for the last 6 years. Last night I also attended Mr. Doney's town hall. I had a wonderful conversation with the previous speaker. I'd like to thank Mr. Doney for holding this event, particularly in the interest of transparency, because like many others here, I haven't heard a lot from this board when I have reached out, which was a major point of many of your campaigns. The main idea that I got from the meeting was that the board is concerned about the budget. While I do agree that we have a budget issue and perhaps some restructuring could occur, I caution you in cutting extreme amounts of administrative positions, as was implied as the plan. While these people may not be directly working with students all the time, many of them take things off of teachers' already full plates and deal with things that very few of us are qualified to do. For example, assistant principals assist with behavior and daily school operations. Special education coordinators ensure our students on IEPs get the services they need while ensuring we're not violating any laws. Other admins set up required assessments and run business operations. Specialists provide more targeted support, and so on. If you cut all of these positions in order to give teachers raises, you're effectively just paying them to do more, not solving the issue of teachers being underpaid. At an hourly rate, if you give them more and pay them more, it's a wash. Related to that, another thing that I heard last night is that parents are frustrated because teachers don't have time for their students. And if we're losing teachers and teachers have to take on more and more, that's less time for your kids. Our teachers love and care for your students. I want to make that very clear. Last night I felt like that was not the message that was sent for me. Just because I can't send an email at 10 p.m. does not mean that I do not care about your kids, and your teachers are feeling the same way. They are giving all that they can to help your students succeed, but so many are at their absolute max. A balanced budget means nothing for the students if you overwhelm and force teachers out. Kind of related to that, another platform that was run on was listening to parents, and I hope that that means all parents. So I would like to remind the board that while it did indeed fail due to state law, 56% of voters supported the last bond issue. The majority of our community does want a bond to pass and does support a bond. One more thing I would like to touch on is the resolution to leave the State School Board Association. Regarding to the budget, I agree that parents should be able to speak up at board meetings peacefully and even a little bit frustrated. I've been known to maybe not be totally composed all the time as well. But like others have mentioned, we do need to weigh the pros and cons there. I believe, as others have mentioned, that withdrawing would end up costing us money in the long run for things like legal counsel and legislative action. So I encourage you to consult with legal and other experts before making a rash political decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Haley Freed.
Hello, my name is Haley Freed. There are seemingly endless concerns about the budget, and many of those concerns are valid. But when looking at a budget, we have to look at the effects of budgeting plans. You know, what happens? I have a scenario for you all. We all have streaming services, right, that we pay for. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Video, Spotify, the list goes on and on. On said subscription services, do you listen to and use everything? No, you don't. And that's okay. With any membership or subscription, there are going to be things that you love and use and other things that you never touch or don't even know is there. If you don't use everything though, why don't you just cancel the whole subscription? It's probably because you've weighed the pros and cons and have decided that the shows, songs, features, and whatnot that you so enjoy are worth the price, and you've also noticed that it's more cost effective to pay a flat fee to get all that you enjoy and use versus paying song by song or episode by episode or service by service. Now let's apply this logic and scenario to the idea of pulling our membership to the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. I looked at it, I looked what they offer, the prices and whatnot.
honestly, if we outsource a few of those things, the cost of the legislative assistance and communication alone is worth the cost of our membership. If we pull our membership, I can guarantee we will be paying far more to make up for the services that we benefit from versus by paying a la carte for those things that we will use. Just because you don't agree with everything that a membership includes doesn't mean that it's a waste of time or attention or a spot on our budgeting plan. Additionally, the idea to just send someone to the legislative session, it's not a good idea. Myself included, your average person doesn't understand the legislative session thoroughly. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of learning. I tried to do it, ended up quitting that job because it's a ton of work. So please just consider that when you make this vote tonight, I suppose. Thank you.
Thank you. Kirsten Mitzel. Kirsten.
Good evening, Board. My name is Kirsten Mitzel, and I'm here to talk to you tonight, as others have, about the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. I've heard a lot of talk tonight about why we shouldn't pull out of there, as well as the fact that they did denounce it, while as not in a public letter, such as the NSBA did, apparently in a telephone call. However, our dues pay for that service that also in turn pays the NSBA dues as well. So that organization is interwoven with the National School Board Association also. I think there is definitely some merit there when 23 states have distanced themselves from this organization and 5 have withdrawn. Interestingly enough, it's not 5 conservative states either. I think it is important that we protect our First Amendment rights, and parents don't need the FBI mobilized to school board meetings, as we're not domestic terrorists. We're just frustrated and we want our voices heard and the best for our students and the staff. Something else I'd like to mention is the ESSER funds. I know there's been discussion as to what all strings are attached to those. I think it's very important that we look into that and see what requirements those have as far as vaccination and other COVID-related measures. I believe that as a school board, we should pass a resolution to prohibit vaccination of any kind from the school district. Parents and students can decide to utilize other community services that are available rather than allowing our schools to become vaccination sites and providing health care, which is not their forte. I think we should leave it up to the professionals that do that for a living. Thank you.
Ed Manzano.
Good evening, school board. I spent 25 years in the military, and one of the first things that I learned was the chain of command. So I think we're kind of missing the point here. The point here is that what's under attack is the parents' right to educate their children. Back in October, Miguel Cardona, who is the Secretary of Education in charge of all of the public education in the United States, under oath could not say parents are in charge of educating their children. He thinks that the government is. So whatever he says filters down through the NEA, National Education Association, filters down to the NSBA, the National School Board Association, and they tell all of the different school boards around the United States, this is how we're going to have our policy. So I believe that we need to focus on the parents' rights to educate their children. And I've got a document that I've put together called the Parent-Student Education Bill of Rights. I'd like to read one point from each of the paragraphs. Number 1, as the divinely ordained caretakers of their child's education, parents have the inherent right to both address and question their school administrators and local school board. 2, parents have the right to question and review any textbooks, learning materials, and lesson plans used to teach their children. 3, parents have the right to expect that lessons and curriculum taught at their school align with South Dakota and other laws. 4, parents have the right to expect teachers in their school to educate their children, not indoctrinate them in theories, ideologies, or social movements that have no place in a child's education. 5, parents have the right to expect all school employees to comply with all laws dealing with patriotism, citizenship, the American flag and Constitution, etc. 6, parents have the right to expect the values and beliefs they have taught their children to be respected in the classroom. 7, parents expect their teachers expect their child's teachers to publicly uphold the oath of allegiance that they have taken to the U.S. Constitution and the American system of government. 8, students have the right to expect their academic freedom to be protected and never violated by any school official in a position of authority over them. 9, parents have the inherent right to make all health decisions affecting their children. The health of school children is solely the responsibility of the parent, not the school. 10, parents expect their children will be addressed at school by their birth name, the parents have given them, and the sex gender that is listed on their birth certificate. That's all I have. Thank you very much, School Board.
Thank you, Ed.
Kimberly Hayden.
My name is Kimberly Hayden, physician assistant, single mother, and mother to a third grader at Grandview Elementary. There's no irony lost in me that I first spoke about this issue to you over the summer, and here I come with a kiddo in remote learning. To start, I'd like to publicly thank my mother, who has been staying home with my son as we are now on day 4 of 7 of this very inconvenient, yet very appropriate school closure. She has allowed me to continue to go to work and continue to provide care to my patients and this community, so the negative effects of the school board's decisions do not continue to ripple throughout the community and delay healthcare access in my absence. This is a luxury not afforded to many in this current situation, and my heart goes out to the other parents put in this difficult situation. To the school board, we told you so. With low community vaccination rates, unvaccinated children, no mitigation measures, and no framework to manage outbreaks, Grandview may be the first, but it will not be the last. You speak of transparency. My 9-year-old mentioned that only 14 out of 21 children were in class, and his teacher went home sick last Wednesday. I have yet to hear from the Department of Health regarding any exposure. I recall you washed your hands of any responsibility for contact tracing or accountability to parents at a prior meeting. The dashboard does not give parents specific enough information relevant to allow them to make responsible choices for their children regarding the magnitude of COVID exposure. Largely, I feel this is a community of reasonable people with reasonable expectations. I implore you to adopt a reasonable approach to give our schools and our administrators tools to prevent another situation like Grandview Elementary. I also encourage my fellow parents to filter out the rhetoric and become a partner in creating healthy schools for our teachers and our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Eldon Rice.
Good evening, thank you. Loudoun County had a situation where apparently a transgender student raped a female in a bathroom. I'd like to talk about what the research that I've done to find out what's your policies about transgenders using opposite-sex bathrooms. When the legislation was going through in Pierre, or trying to go through, the schools districts were saying, we have procedures and policies and we're handling it. I said, well, that's interesting. So I called up 3 major school districts in the state and said, what's your policy and procedures? They didn't want to give them to me, and the truth is there isn't any. So I have a teacher in my practice who had a transgender student. I said, are there any policies and procedures? She says, no, there isn't any. What are you doing? We don't know. We don't know what to do. So the reason I'm concerned about this, in California, the teachers union claimed to be, they're LGBT neutral, you know? But all the time that they were saying this, I was getting teachers telling me they're trying to give a pro-gay message in every class. So then when Proposition 8 came out, they donated money to defeat marriage between a man and a woman. So I'm not thinking that they're neutral. So where is your policy? I called the paper and I said, why don't you report that there isn't a policy and see if you can get one out of them? They hung up on me after giving me some typical talking points. I'm not even telling you what it should be, you know? Just make one so we can weigh in on it. Because what happened in California is there wasn't one, the teachers were just doing whatever they wanted to do based on their personal belief system. So then the parents found out later and were quite upset about it. So I would ask you to get a policy, let us weigh in on it, and let's see how many people move. I know people that if you go with what's considered to be the more liberal view, they're going to take their kids out. So before we start worrying about if we have room and all that, make a policy and see how many people leave. You've got a pretty high rate of homeschoolers already, as I understand. The second thing is if we have a teacher using bad language in school, which has several reports like dropping the F-bomb, what is the way we can get some reconciliation with that? We all know that there's very clearly spelled out if the rules are broke for the kids. We go to the teachers and you guys go into executive session, we never get the resolution. We'd like to be able to take teachers that misbehave, we'd like to get a resolution of that, and how do we do that? And that's really, please tell me how that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Shane Beardsley? Shay?
Hi, my name is Shay Beardsley, and I know it's very surprising for all of you to see a student up here actually talking, because we're talking about schools, and every time I've come to a school board meeting, I think I'm the first I've seen to actually talk. I didn't really have a plan to what I was exactly going to talk about today, but I just wanted to say that the amount of people I know who I've talked to when I say that there's only a couple of students talk is that everyone thinks that none of us care. But I've seen the way kids in my school talk about what is going on here and to our teachers. And I'm telling you, they do care. They just know that no one's going to listen to them if they come here. That's it.
Thank you. Carol Merwin?
Carol Merwin, retired English teacher. When I was teaching in California, I got to go to one of the English teachers' meetings, the state meeting, and I learned a lot from those other teachers. And I think that if you could inform other districts about your experience and they could share their knowledge and wisdom with you, it would benefit everyone.
Thank you. Rocky Atkinson?
Hello again, Raquel Akison. I go by Rocky. Thank you for remembering. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a fifth-year special education teacher in this district. I'm the primary caregiver for my adult sister with a disability, and I'm a respite and companion care provider for the special needs community here in Rapid City. I'm back this week because this board is considering pulling away from the only organization they are responsible to, leaving them with an inappropriate amount of power. I would like to share with this community some verbiage from the Associated School Boards of South Dakota Handbook. In the introduction, on the first page, it states one of the commitments is serving as a leader selected by your fellow citizens and ensuring that the community's voice is heard in decisions affecting public schools. I would expect that as a Board of Education member in the state of South Dakota, you have read the introduction to this handbook. While I am a teacher in the district, I am a member of this community. I've been a member of this community for much longer, and I'm here so that you can hear my voice and the voice of many others who are either unable to be here or afraid of retribution because they work in your district. It has come to my attention that my paraprofessionals, I have 3, no longer receive inclement weather pay. We learned that on our first snow day. There's also no bare minimum paycheck requirement to make sure that they can provide for their families. This meant that 2 of my 3 staff went 4 weeks without a paycheck due to COVID quarantine. How do we expect to retain quality staff? Not only are they making less than they would make as a new staff at McDonald's, but in my program particularly, we are asking them to lift, feed, change, medicate, de-escalate, and when all else fails, seclude and restrain students for their safety and ours. It is a very difficult job, and I'm doing my very best to keep morale up in my program. This district can and must do better for them. Finally, I disagree with the board president's comment 2 meetings ago about how it is not the board's responsibility to answer concerns or questions asked directly to her and or the board. You were elected because this community believed communication and transparency would get better, not worse. It is your job to answer your constituents. You are an elected official. Administration created a back-to-school plan. You all chose to change that plan against medical advice, ergo you are the responsible party. Again, per the handbook, you each have a responsibility to be informed about a list of things, but the most relevant right now
That's time.
is the needs of the community. Please answer your email.
David Needham. David Needham. Oh, other room. Thank you.
Overflow. Stand right here.
That's the place.
Okay. My name's Dave Needham, and thanks for this opportunity to address the school board, the teachers, and the parents. To the school board members, I want to say that you're one of the last lines of defense that we as parents have against the anti-American, anti-family agenda of what used to be a political party. Many appreciate the incredible pressures you've placed yourselves under, and please continue to be vigilant because the tactics and terminology coming from the left will continue to morph in an attempt to hide their true intentions, and I thank you for your sacrifice. To the teachers, I want to say that it's time to make a stand for your students. It is no secret that the NEA and the American Federation of Teachers are controlled by the Marxist wing of the Democratic Party. Allowing one political party to use teachers' unions to indoctrinate children is unacceptable. Identity politics, critical theory, and gender-confusing students is meant to divide a nation. Teachers opposed to indoctrinating students must push back by condemning and defunding leftist-controlled teachers' unions and forming alternative unions that prioritize education over indoctrination. To the parents, I want to say that removing Marxist indoctrination from public schools will take time. If possible, you should remove your students from public schools and find an alternative that works for you and your family. We must demand that our state legislatures pass laws allowing our tax money to follow our students. Many parents could afford private schools, and other parents could afford to stay home and homeschool if some of those funds are reappropriated. Even if you as a parent can find a way to remove your children from the public school system, this is no time to disengage from the battle for the minds of our children. If the public schools are allowed to indoctrinate the vast majority of students into embracing socialism and communism, the future of our nation will be bleak. Communist dictator Joseph Stalin, who by various estimates was responsible for around 20 to 40 million deaths, had this to say about education. Education is a weapon whose effect depends on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. Today's Democratic Marxist Party understands Stalin's thinking well, and they are using leftist educators to aim the weapon of education, or more precisely, the weapon of indoctrination, at our children. We must stand between these leftists and their intended victims, our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Forrest Cooper.
My name is Forrest Cooper. It's recently come to my understanding that the Capital Outlay Fund for the Rapid City area schools has been transferring money to the operating fund for the school district. This is financial suicide if it's done as a continuing practice. So it must be examined if this is the case, and if it is, alternatives must be found. But this is part of a larger issue that we have here, and that's the financial condition of the school district. There are big problems that we now understand are here. We also have a problem with the performance, the educational performance of our students. And these two situations are inextricably linked. The quality of education that we're able to provide to our students is dependent upon the quality of our teachers, the quality of our administration. Some suggest that we need to do more. We need to pay teachers more. We need to do more of this, build new schools. It's as though finances are not a part of this. Well, in the real world, finances are a part of everything. Government entities that continually live on debt are doomed to some sort of catastrophe. And why we, as you board and we public supporting you, deal with these big problems, the finances have to be addressed, and I believe better financial decisions have to be made so that we can ultimately improve the quality of education, better service for our students.
Thank you. That is it for speakers. We will go on to sharing the success, the College and Career Readiness Month. Who is that, Dr. Simon? There you go.
Thank you, President Thomas. November is College and Career Readiness Month, and so I'm going to read a proclamation. Whereas the Rapid City area schools are committed to equipping all students with the skills to be ready for college, career, and life, and whereas all Rapid City students are urged to learn about themselves, including their interests, skills, and aptitudes beginning in elementary school, and whereas all Rapid City students should be exposed to the variety of career options available to them, and whereas all Rapid City students should learn about a variety of post-secondary education and training program possibilities to help them achieve their career and life goals, and whereas we should encourage all Rapid City High School seniors to submit at least one application to a higher education institution, and whereas College and Career Readiness Month provides resources that help educators inspire a school-wide college-going culture that celebrates all opportunities of education and training beyond high school. Therefore, I, Dr. Lori Simon, do hereby declare November in Rapid City area schools as College and Career Readiness Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Simon. All right, number 7, student representative reports. Karen is absent with notice, so we'll go down to Abby Rutan from Rapid City High School. Sometimes it takes a second to go green. Yep.
So it is my last year at Rapid City High School this year, but as I near graduation, I look to attending college for criminal justice. Rapid City High School learners have completed the ASVAB test on October 27th. This test provides learners with valuable career aptitude information. This Thursday, November 3rd, is Rapid City High School's College and Career Readiness Day. During 3rd and 4th periods, all juniors and seniors will have the opportunity to explore post-secondary options. Several post-secondary college and career partners will be present. Additionally, support will be present for learners wanting to take advantage of the South Dakota Board of Regents free college application campaign and complete their college application that day. This Thursday from 4 p.m. to 7:30 is parent-teacher conferences. Rapid High does offer a hybrid option with both in-person and virtual options. We also ensure every learner's guardian is connected with during parent-teacher conferences through the advisory program. Rapid City High School is sponsoring their biannual blood drive this Friday, November 5th. We invite you, the board members, and senior leadership team to participate in our blood drive. In closing, I will remind you of our school-wide expectations at Rapid City High School. Be respectful, be present, and be courageous.
Thank you. Very nice. All right. Hayden from Stevens High School. Hayden Bentz.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everybody. My name is Hayden Bentz, and I'm the student representative from Stevens High School. I would like to begin my report tonight by touching on the attendance records at Stevens. Fridays continue to remain the source of most of our absences. On average, 11.9% of students were absent on Fridays in October, compared to the second highest day, Tuesday, with 8.1% of students being absent during the month. The four-year graduation rates at Stevens remain relatively high, with it being 86% for the 2020-2021 school year. However, the numbers increase drastically if accounted for students who graduate in 5 years, entering the high 90% range. Principal Hafner is pleased that the students are graduating from Stevens at such a high rate and feels that they are prepared for the workforce when they receive their diploma. Post-high planning has taken center stage during the fall. On October 9th, all juniors and seniors took part in a post-high planning day at the monument, with dozens of area universities taking part in the event. Students had the opportunity to meet with these schools and explore what they had to offer. I can vouch firsthand that it was a worthwhile experience. Additionally, it is college application week for seniors. Tomorrow and Thursday, seniors during their English classes will have the opportunity to apply to any public South Dakota school for free. If they are unable to do this in person at the school, the opportunity can also be taken advantage of throughout the month online. In the field of fine arts, the Stevens Blue Raider Marching Band competed in Laramie, Wyoming, against schools from Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming. They performed a show featuring the music of Elton John with songs such as I'm Still Standing and Your Song. They placed third in the competition, a major accomplishment, especially considering that they were unable to attend a competition last year. Also, the theater department is putting on their first play of the year, Peter and the Starcatcher. It opens this Friday and will run through Saturday. Also, Stevens has a long-standing tradition of sending many musicians to All-State Orchestra and Chorus each year. 2021 was no exception. 39 chairs were earned for All-State Orchestra, and 5 quartets were selected for All-State Chorus. This is a phenomenal individual and group achievement. Stevens Athletics also had a very successful first quarter. Volleyball is still competing, with their next match being against Sturgis tonight. Both the girls and boys soccer teams made the playoffs, with the girls team finishing runner-up in the state tournament. Also, football wrapped up its season this past Thursday. They had a bounce-back season, making it to the playoffs and offering a chance for the future classes to grow off this year's success. I was proud to represent Stevens as a member of the team. Stevens also has many champions. 2 state championships were won, girls tennis and cross country. Additionally, junior Simeon Birnbaum placed first in the boys cross country race. All in all, it has been a very eventful and exciting first quarter. I have immense pride in my school and wouldn't trade it for anything else. There is simply nothing greater than being a Raider.
Thank you, Hayden. All right. Thank you both for that. It's kind of nerve-wracking, but you did really, really well. Thank you. And represented your schools nicely. Going on to 8, conflict of interest. No one has turned in any waivers. So going on to 9, if there's anybody that wants anything pulled, say no. All right, then I need a motion and second for approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Jim and Deb? All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Say no. All right. Approval of the supplement consent agenda. Would anybody like any of these pulled?
I would like D pulled for discussion.
And I would like E pulled.
Any others? All right, then I need a motion and a second to approve of the supplemental consent agenda A through C. Amy? And Gabe. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, moving on to 10D, resolution to leave Associated School Boards of South Dakota. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Jim and Deb? All right, discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to go first?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go right ahead.
So to my fellow board members, being on the board as long as I have, at 2 different times, this has come up. This isn't the first time that this conversation has come up. I will tell you that I thought the same thing for a long time, but each time that has been brought up, I have had many things that have been brought forward to my attention, legislative policies, different board meetings that we are allowed to go to learn how to be a better board. I will tell you that if you want to change this to where we leave the National Association, yes, I'm for that. But I am not for leaving the associated school boards due to the fact that we have a say in this. We have representatives that meet with the associated school boards. We have opportunities when they come out to teach. Director Pogany comes out. We're able to have face-to-face conversations. If anything, we can be a better board member. We can actually speak to him. I know that many times in the first 2 terms that I was on, we called and said, come to us. And he took the time to come out, and we could actually share our feelings with that. What you're talking about with pulling us out of this, with the over 100 school boards across the state, is we are leaving a unit that we will not have a say in. And I will tell you right now that all the comments that were made, there's good and bad, there's emotion, there's no emotion. The fact is that young lady who said that she was working at the state and understanding politics, she's the one that left that position. And she's right, it is hard. In reference to money, we receive money from the state. The state legislatures and the governor are the ones that give us the money. We then decide how to spend it. So all of this money talk has got nothing to do with it, but the whole time Associated School Boards is there talking to us. They're there trying to get money for us, for the district, for all the districts. You can take all the legislators, West River, and they could all vote the exact same. But if East River isn't on the same page, the entire western South Dakota loses. It's just the fact of population. They have more people on East River, they have more legislators, and they control it. We need a say, and if we pull out of the associated school boards, we have 0 say in it. Because I'm going to tell you, we have legislators that are here, they're awesome legislators, we have an opportunity to talk to them, but let me be honest with you. If we're not talking to all of them, which associated school boards will, if we have a seat at the table, they can do that. It's tough, and I understand what was said at the national level. I understand that it was offensive, but we have no say in that, no matter what we want to say. We do have say in the South Dakota, the state of South Dakota Associated School Boards. If we're not saying it, then that's shame on us for not standing up and being a better board member and being on that committee and saying something. I would vote for a resolution to be completely done with the national associations for what they did. But I'm asking you to consider not removing us from the South Dakota Associated School Boards. We have a meeting tomorrow, and I will tell you if this gets voted in that we're done with it. I will not be attending tomorrow because even though we paid our fees for it, that isn't right to then finish out your year. That's just my personal belief on this. So I appreciate this. I appreciate the fact that this resolution, that new board members are taking the time to write these. It's great work. I'm excited for more communication with my board members. This is my opportunity to make my stance on this. And if we don't like it, we have to say something. But just pulling out of it, then we have no say. And they can do whatever they want to in the state of South Dakota. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? I know I do have some comments too. Go ahead, Gabe. Oh, wait, sorry, Amy. Okay.
Okay. I would also like to speak against withdrawing from the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. I do agree with the whereas statements in this resolution. I do agree that it wasn't correct for the National Association to act without consulting with the state associations, and to act in the way they did was especially inappropriate. But the Associated School Boards of South Dakota provide our school district and all the school districts in South Dakota with many benefits. I agree completely with what Jim says. They are our voice during the legislative process. And if we aren't meeting with them and explaining to them what our needs are, then we have to provide that voice. I have been working for the 5 years, 5.5 years that I've been on the board, and prior to being on the board, for education in the during the legislative session, and it's very complicated. Over 500 bills every year are put forward. Many of them influence public education, and the Associated School Boards of South Dakota draw all of those 500 together and explain what they are and what the benefit or what the detriment would be to our school district. And I don't know if any of you have time to do that, but I don't have time to do that. And Dr. Simon doesn't have time to do that, no matter how much we paid her. Coy Sassy doesn't have time to do that because he's working on the budget and what we need to do to address the concerns we have there. So I think that that service alone would cost us more than the around $9,000 a year we pay to the Associated School Boards. And as far as I can hear, this community is not really willing to give us more of their own money to pay for those services. I don't think we can get those services free. And then just this week, we received a letter from our Human Resource Director, and I did not know that the Associated School Boards did this for us, but they provide trainings on current trends in human resources specifically for school systems. I would say that those trainings would cost more than around $9,000 a year. Recruiting, the Associated School Boards of South Dakota has a job board, and that is where we do our main recruiting for new teachers. To lose that job board and the opportunity to put our school district onto that board to recruit teachers will put us in even more of a bind to fill the 150 positions, which aren't all teachers, but put us in more of a bind to recruit teachers. And I would say be much more costly than our around $9,000 a year we pay to the Associated School Boards. Policy development, as we heard, to pay a lawyer to help us make sure that our policies are legal would cost much more than the $9,000 we pay to the Associated School Boards every year. So if the majority of board members intend to pass this, I would encourage you to delay it until we can understand the financial consequences of withdrawing from Associated School Boards. But I would also be in support of modifying this resolution, and instead of withdrawing, I think we could express our displeasure that the Associated School Boards did not make a public statement and encourage them to do so in our resolution. But I will not be voting for it in its current form.
Okay, Gabe?
I don't know if I have necessarily any comments to this. I've been trying to look at this from many different ways. I probably have more questions on this than anything at this point. But I think those that know me know that I'll vote more on principle than I will political, or whatever people like to call it. My question is, if you're associated with one, aren't you associated with the other? That can we answer that? I mean, if we're paying dues to the state association, who then they pay dues to the national, Can you have one or the other?
I'll go ahead and make my comments right now then too, and then maybe if you have more questions, I can help answer those. So I did do my research. After Brianna's resolution came through, it was a phone call to Wade Pogany. I asked, why is there no dissent from the National School Board over something so disgusting, to have said that they would use the FBI against parents. Many of you tonight, if you were labeled a terrorist, we as school board members were supposed to point you out. He said if they publicly denounced the letter, it would be like putting gas on a fire. Couldn't even say no. Now, if somebody found that on Facebook or somewhere else, it's still not official. It's not an official denouncement, although he did express deep regret that the National School Board did this and that had that letter. He was disgusted with it personally, but not willing as a board to say so publicly. Secondly, they feel that they can make changes within the system and influence by staying in the National School Board Association. So they will stay. They are not going to get out. At the time, there were 2 states that had gotten out, and now I hear there's 5, and plenty of other states, it sounds like, that at least denounced it publicly. We do pay $8,250 for these services, mostly for them to lobby in the legislation for all public schools. There are 149 districts in South Dakota, and every one of them is associated, a member with the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. Now, I asked, do our tax dollars then go to the National Board? Do they pay? Does South Dakota School Boards Association pay? They pay $34,000 per year to be a member of the National School Boards Association. That is still our tax money going towards them. They feel that they don't want to disconnect, though, because they can make change from within with $34,000. Those are based on enrollment. Texas and other states are obviously going to pay a ton more. I'm not sure South Dakota has a whole lot of influence. I'm not confident that we have influence on the National School Board Association. Also, we can't leave the National School Board Association if South Dakota doesn't. They have to do the leaving. We can make resolutions all day long, won't make a bit of difference. Policy making, templates, those type of things that they give us, we can get those for free all over the place. And in fact, we did that with other school board governance plans. We copy and pasted and then rearranged a few words for priorly. So there's resources everywhere for that. The trainings, there are trainings also online that are similar to the school board training, free. We can also use the legislative body. They have a couple of different, I can't remember the one, a legislative body that gives anybody for free an analysis of the laws that have come through so that we could pick from there. And we do pay our lawyers as it is. And again, there's policies out there that will help, that we could come up with, that we come up with anyway with our policy committee. Also, I'm not sure of the exact ones. When we got that letter from HR saying training for trends for HR come from the Associated School Boards, but where do you think that they get them from? They get them from the National School Board Association. And right now, I have zero trust in the National School Board Association. Not sure what they're sending down the pike. Also, it would not take much for one time to send our business director to the Joint Committee on Appropriations at the beginning in January that the legislation puts on for understanding the state funding better. Although, quite honestly, our business director has given us such good information that that's his job. Why I wouldn't ever go to associated school boards. I'm going to go to my business director. So to understand state funding, I found it myself easier to understand it from Mr. Sassy. I guess mainly the biggest thing here is our not being able, the idea that we can't get any more for the rest of the year until July when there's another resolution to join again. We have already paid that $8,250 and it is non-refundable. So, with that being said, tomorrow night, and some of these other things that we do have to pay for, to pay in to go and see them, some of those services, we still have access to that for this year. So it's not that we're losing anything that they can give us. It is up to us, because we've already paid for the year, to say, yes, this part, we would like you to do this for us, because they can still do this. This resolution is on principle that they did not denounce the letter publicly, and they are not disassociating from something that is, what's the word I used earlier? Egregious. So we can still use the money that we've already given by using them and having access to them if we need to the rest of the year. But it sends a clear message that on principle, we do not agree with them not denouncing and not getting out of that group. Anybody else? Go ahead, Amy.
I would like Kristen Streisel, our HR manager, to clarify the services that we receive from ASBSD and the consequences she sees of us pulling out.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. I won't speak to the board level pieces because that's more your expertise than mine, so I will exclusively speak to the components that touch HR. Regarding the training pieces, the ones at least that our department has most been impacted by don't come down from the national organization. Rather, it's interpretation of state codified law and negotiating and mediating practice. For example, the last training that I attended had information for us to be able to responsibly report data breaches should an information breach ever happen, and follow the correct procedure to protect student information and employee information, which was very informative, and responded to a state law that had been passed shortly before the training. We had training that was provided regarding the utilization and best practices regarding school resource officers and being able to support students in that capacity. We had great training on negotiations and what we should be doing in the state of South Dakota when we reach impasse to have good relationships with the different employee groups in our district. And those were primarily, in my experience, based on South Dakota specific codified law, which was interpreted in a very useful way, and resources were provided. However, in that experience, there was nothing that was, I don't have a better way to say this, shoved down our throats. It was merely resources that were, this is what we have seen. And to that end, for example, last year we saw a school district on the east side of the state that the South Dakota Department of Education lodged an ethics complaint against. And it was the Associated School Boards of South Dakota that reached out to provide support to that school district, and it was regarding long-term subs and their utilization by that district. Then the Associated School Boards we were able to gain resources through them to understand how not to put our district at risk of a similar ethics complaint, either against the board or the superintendent. And I found that very useful as it related very specifically to the state of South Dakota. Policy development, we have no obligation to accept anything that ASBSD provides without this entity and this board looking at, analyzing, and deeming it acceptable. We just save time because we are able to find trends and find the mistakes that maybe other areas might have made so we don't fall into them. The number one area that I would provide feedback is in recruiting. and the area that makes me most nervous. In preparation to give you information that would be useful, we reached out to the Associated School Boards to gain more insight on their job posting board, which we currently use and which all 185 school districts currently use. Right now, there are over 8,000 applicant profiles that we have access to through the usage of that job posting board. It is very important for our recruiting, especially at the dire time that we are in, to retain access to that posting board, because our teachers, our assistant principals, and our principals and counselors are very special and unusual creatures, and they don't inhabit LinkedIn and Indeed and a lot of the other spaces that you might normally go to recruit and post for candidates. And so having that access to that 8,000 candidate profile, especially as it changes year after year, and being able to get in there and get in competition with the other districts and know that that is a place where candidates will look first. Additionally, we have reached out to them to say, could we, if we were to leave, as I would expect this would be a question you would have, could we post for that, could we pay for that service only? Could we pay to post per position? Unfortunately, that entire resource would be absent to us if we were no longer a member. That's not something that we could gain a la carte. And for, again, knowing that the $8,250 is a combined bill for ASBSD in its entirety, what I would share is when we have a difficult to fill position that we have to reach out to another entity to post, such as one of the larger national firms or something like that, that it is not, unfortunately, uncommon to see a $1,000 price tag for a posting. And they are very particular about what they will allow you to do. So the loss of that recruiting pipeline and our ability to compete with other school districts in the state would be a matter of significance. I hope that information is useful to you.
Is there, doesn't the state of South Dakota have a job board?
They do, and we are on that as well. It's just not education specific, and so you don't see the same groups of employees go to secure jobs on that particular board that would go to ASBSD's job board.
Okay, and then I have another question, I guess, and maybe Mr. Sassy, or you can speak to it. It's on our budget, or our resolution tonight on the amendment of the budget. I can't remember which letter that was, but it does say one of the functions that we just approved of is number 1, way down in here, teacher and principal training and recruiting. Now, I realize that training is probably the biggest part of this money, but recruiting is there, and it's at $1,223,000. How much of that, what is that, that we're paying for, and what is that recruiting? So what I'm saying is, if we're spending quite a bit of money recruiting somewhere else anyway, or paying for it somehow, having the state of South Dakota job board and whatever this recruiting is that not sufficient?
President Thomas, I can address part of that question. I believe you're referring to the budget amendment in which there is a portion of carryover from the Title II Part A program, which that is actually its official title, what you said, which I will not be able to reiterate off the top of my head. And that is for carryover from the previous year's award. So that money is not new money. It's money that was awarded to the district in the previous fiscal year that went unspent. It is within the carryover limits that the U.S. Department of Ed laid out for that program. And so what we are doing is amending the budget to carry those funds into the current fiscal year. And then those funds are used for teacher, principal training, recruiting, and those types of purposes. I believe Ms. Seals would probably be able to speak better to some of those real specific questions around what exactly that money serves and the type of specific training and recruitment that it provides for. But that's the purpose of those dollars, and that's the purpose of this budget amendment, President Thomas.
Thank you very much
Yes,
for that
ma'am.
explanation. Then Val, if you know, could you please let me know or tell us the training and recruiting? So what does that go to that associated school boards would be different?
I actually don't pay for training for our recruiters. What we do set aside is a portion of our Title IIA, which is in general for training for principals and teachers. A portion of it is set aside for recruiting. It allows for registration at job fairs. It allows for the billboards that advertise we need bus drivers, or the signs that you see on our red panel trucks. That's the kind of money we set aside. So out of that 1.2 million budget or whatever you referenced, they have between $25,000 and $40,000 to allocate each year for different projects, to put the banners on the fences at our schools, or to travel to Sioux Falls for the job fair. So that's the recruiting piece. But I to my knowledge, I've never sent our recruiter to any sort of training specific to recruiting.
Sure, okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Brianna.
Okay, I don't have questions.
Oh, sure.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
list. I have a poorly written list of things. Okay. So we have paid. Are we good now? Okay. Okay. Hold on. Okay. We have paid our non-refundable dues for this year. So no matter what we do right now, we would not be leaving the association because we are there for a year. Basically, what this resolution is that we are sending a message that our membership next year is under heavy review and effectively on the line, because I and other board members would really like, and I dare say, we are demanding a public statement condemning the actions of the NASB, not a telephone interview. There has been no public statement by the organization itself. And Wade's statement of not wanting to put gas on the fire shows that they are perfectly okay with being an accomplice to arson, which is unacceptable to me and shouldn't be acceptable for anyone. So we can amend the first
Number one?
Number one.
Do you have a suggestion for it?
I've been thinking about it, and I can't think of anything, because I think that this is unacceptable that they decided not to publicly denounce something so awful that the National School Board Association did. So if anybody has suggestions on how to amend number one, I am open to that, because I understand where everybody is coming from, that they get trainings and whatnot, and we can still use those for this year, but if a public statement doesn't come out, we vote next year to pay their dues. So,
Gabe, go ahead.
Well, I guess my questions still stand the same, I guess, in regards to if we're involved with one, are we involved with the other, or how do you denounce one and not the other? Can we do that? I'm not understanding that just yet. We cannot.
Cannot. No, we cannot. The Associated School Boards of South Dakota has to pull their membership.
Right.
We cannot
Okay.
pull the membership.
My last question to this, and I actually just kind of thought of it, and granted, some of us are new to this yet still, but if we do go away from this, does it affect anything with the South Dakota HHSA and anything like that in regards to our? Does anybody know that answer?
What's the HHSA?
Sports.
Oh.
No.
No.
Connected.
Okay, they're not connected.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Outside of any policies that the State School Board Association develops related to activities, but no direct nexus.
I don't have anything else at this time.
Amy?
I guess if we're looking at this on, I don't know what the right word is, on principle or values, thank you. The National School Board Association did write a letter apologizing, saying what they did was wrong. I guess we should take that into consideration, that they acted without consulting with their state organizations and on the basis of maybe one overzealous member. I think that we need to take that into consideration also. And, you know, there's a saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. In the olden days, before we had running water, one tub of water was drawn to bathe with on Saturday. Started with the oldest and went to the youngest. So the baby was usually the last to bathe, and the water was usually very dirty. And so I think the saying is, let's not throw out what's valuable just because the bath water has gotten dirty. The value that Associated School Boards brings to us is worth staying associated with them. And if we're planning to continue this year because we've paid our dues, I think to a certain degree that is not, that doesn't show that our board has integrity. If we're going to, let's see, terminate our relationship with the Associated School Boards of South Dakota immediately, we're terminating our relationship.
Dr. Lori Simon.
Thank you, President Thomas. I think it's already been noted by a few of you that we have already paid our dues this year, and so we are entitled to use the services that they offer this year, of which there really are many. And I really think that the board needs to carefully consider this, because it's not a matter of being able to pull policies from somewhere on the web and be assured that they follow our South Dakota codified law where appropriate, or that they have been properly vetted by legal counsel. We use their job board extensively. I would ask, would the board consider, when you get down to the resolution, I understand the concern with the National School Board Association letter. I completely get where the school board is coming from. That was very concerning. However, would the board consider where it says at the bottom, now therefore be it resolved as follows, that RCAS would like to engage in discussion with ASBSD surrounding their position to express our dissatisfaction with their actions. And then I would just add very quickly, tomorrow night is the regional ASBSD meeting, so those of you board members attending can speak directly with Dr. Pogany and others and question him, and I am sure others in the room are going to have some of the same questions. So I would ask that you consider that. That would allow us some time to really look at the ramifications to our district ahead of next July's annual meeting, at which time the board would be voting on that annual participation resolution.
Brianna?
You can skip me because it was incredibly snarky and I will not be saying what I was going to say.
Okay. Jim?
Brianna, thank you for being open-minded. I appreciate that. So you ask, somebody have an idea. I understand the principle of this. That's why if we could separate from the national, I would vote in a heartbeat. Would you consider where we get to number 1 and we put RCAS, will, and then add the word review termination, change it from terminate to termination, its relationship with ASAB, scratch immediately, at the end of this year's contract, and add this review is based upon a written letter from ASAB to the National. And then scratch number 2. Because we're going to have this conversation in July upon the new contract. And if we haven't received that based upon principle, then at that time, it's easier to make a decision versus in the middle of the year.
So, to be
Just
clear,
wait, I want to hear her first.
how would you say it then?
Is that what you want me to go over?
Yeah, go ahead and go over it again.
Okay.
So everybody's on the same page.
Number 1, Rapid City Area Association will add the word review, change terminate to termination, in its relationship with the Associated School Boards of South Dakota, remove the word immediately, and put at the end of this year's contract, this review is based upon a written letter from the ASAB to the NSBA.
I feel like that's acceptable. I'll go ahead and say my snarky comment because I was going to suggest that we just call Mr. Pogany up right now and ask if they would be willing to put forward a public statement on their stance on this. But it's 7:06 p.m., so he's probably in bed. But I think that's acceptable because we cannot just leave the association due to funds already being given. So I think Jim's idea is a good one because I didn't have a better one.
You had a great one. Don't sell yourself short. You're working through this your first year.
Deb? Microphone.
Because I didn't turn it on. I was going to suggest pretty much the same thing that Jim just did, so.
Okay, so I guess you would need a motion.
I made a motion for this.
Okay, your motion is to change number 1 to Rapid City Area Schools will review.
Yep.
Termination. It's termination of its relationship.
Yep.
With the Associated School Boards of South Dakota.
At the end
of this contract, the review is based on
a written letter from ASAB to the National.
Okay.
And then scratch number 2.
And scratch number 2. Does anybody want to second that?
I will second that.
Brianna?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with that, that is a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, we are voting just on the amendment to this resolution. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now we're back to passing this with the amendment. Did someone motion and second? Okay. So all those in favor of the newly amended resolution, 10D, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. On to 10E. We have a motion and a second. Amy motions. Does she have a second? With no second, it fails for lack of a second. Going on to number 11, first reading of policies, there are none. So number 12, reports of the superintendent. A, Hayes report, Kristen Streisel.
Thank you, Board. I would like to introduce Mason Powers.
He comes to us from Hayes Companies, and he helps us by analyzing various pieces of our benefits plan. I know a lot of times when we discuss the financial aspect of our district, we talk exclusively about salaries, about facilities, and other areas, but another very important and potent area of our fiscal management is looking at our benefits plan, and we do regular financial review of it, as well as looking at the efficiency of the plan. We have worked a great deal over the last couple years with Hayes to make sure that the plan that we are offering is changing to meet the needs of employees and gives them the offerings that they need. So Mr. Powers is here to share the information and give you a review of our last full year. Thanks, Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Kristen. Also, thank you very much, board members, Madam President, and Dr. Simon. Do I get 2.5 minutes?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, it's insurance, so.
Just kidding.
2. 2. We'll cut it to 2 then.
I would do that. Okay, so what we're going to go over today is just a quick recap of some of the financial information and the impact of a pretty positive plan year that this Rapid City School District had with reference to its benefit programs. Again, and just historically, the last few years, the district has been running at a surplus, which has been beneficial in some respects, and we'll get to that in a second. There's 2 aspects to this report. The first part of it, I'm just going to really talk about medical claims on the medical plan and give you an idea on how the plan has been trending compared to the prior year. So, you know, we like colors and charts and insurance to make things interesting. I've circled the relevant information here, and what we're basically pointing out in the plan year that ended in September, so your plan actually goes from September 1st through October 31st, and we're already into the next plan year, which we're not talking about today, just the conclusion of last year's plan. There was about $16,239,000 of medical claims that were paid on the behalf of the district for all the staff, employees, and so forth. You can see the breakdown between the medical and the pharmacy. And then there's an insurance portion that Wellmark reimburses the district for any claims of any individual that's over $175,000. And we had reimbursements of approximately $760,000 last year. You can see where we were on that number from the year before. One of the nice pieces of information here is just to show what the claims were to the actuarial cost expectation on claims. And the district was running about the same trend line as we were in the prior year, so we're around 97% of expected claims. So right away, that's telling us that things are looking favorable. And we're actually favorable by that claim expectation by almost 3%. Okay. One other piece of analytics here on the medical plan. I know there's a lot of numbers on the page. Basically what we're doing here is we're just trying to compare last year versus this year in terms of cost per employee and what that looks like. Now, a lot of you may know what medical trend is or heard of what that is. I just basically reference it as the cost of Band-Aids going up from one year to the next. And we've got a couple trend references here. Wellmark, who is the medical insurance carrier, has a trend of 6.75% of the cost of Band-Aids going up year to year. That's going to change, you know, but historically that's what it was last year. We have other national trends that show that medical inflation goes on anywhere from 7 or 8%. Wellmark is about 6.75. Your actual costs went up just about 6%. So right under trend, and which is obviously favorable. One of the things that we provide COI with is some lag analysis, so he can provide to his auditors. And essentially the lag is about 28 days, which basically means that when I go into the doctor, if I was under your plan, the district's paying those claims 28 days later because it takes time for processing and so forth. But that's also a pretty good number. That's a low number in terms of what we would expect. The average is around 31. One of the big topics, obviously, the last 18, 24 months has been the impact of the pandemic. And, you know, there is some cost that's been associated with that for the district. About $688,000 of costs has been related to the pandemic itself. And we can see what those are. Now, I can tell you that some people may have sought treatment outside of the Blue Cross umbrella, but this is what was measured through Blue Cross or Wellmark. So there was testing that was approximately $214,000 of cost. You can see the members tested here. The treatment cost was about $423,000, and there's some vaccination costs of about $50,000 for a total of $688,000. You know, interestingly enough, you can see in terms of the amount of occurrences, we're starting to tick off a little bit here. Just those numbers are starting to come down. This was our little spike that we had a little while ago. Every state, every region of the country has different, we see different trends depending on what industry they're in, and it's just, there's no real rhyme or reason for the pattern. It just sometimes is what it is. I know that's not a really good answer, but we've seen in South Dakota probably more prevalence, and certainly being in a school district environment, you're probably going to have a little bit more susceptibility to those types of claim situations. Okay, so in terms of the buckets of costs, we looked at, you know, the main areas here, and we just broke them down into facility charges. That's like your inpatient, outpatient charges. Your professional would be your doctors, nurses, and so forth, and then your pharmacy costs. And, you know, we compared last year versus the current year, and on a percentage level basis, these are about the same. So the cost expectation there, in terms of how these were bucketed out, really didn't change much from last year. We also have a listing here of several of these are all de-identified people, what the diagnosis was, but we can kind of see here what the amounts of those claims were. I think our highest cost claim was like $322,000. Again, the district has insurance that picks up all charges over $175,000 for each member. So that's how we got to that $760,000 that I referenced on the first page. We do a lot of number crunching and analytics, as Kristen mentioned. One of the things that we kind of look at here is the thresholds on certain levels of claims and how many we would actuarially predict. And here was our expectation for the current year of claims over 175, 9.1 people. I don't know how you slice a tenth of a person, but that's what our math tells us. And then here's for claims over 25,000, we expected 139. It was actually 141. So those numbers were very, very tight to what we consider the tolerance on that analysis. You know, we would expect similar results for next year. And I will tell you right now that for the first 3 months of the plan year, the budget is running pretty well. You know, obviously that can change. But continuing back on to last year, another tool that we like to look at is how efficient Wellmark is in processing your claims and how your plan design impacts your overall costs. And we have like what we call an efficiency score here. So what I think is really interesting is, despite the fact in terms of claims that the district paid out about $16 million in total claims, the process started out with $35 million of bills being sent to Wellmark from all the providers. Okay? So what Wellmark has, they've got great discounts with your different providers for, you know, facilities, professional services, and pharmacy. And everything in this bucket is everything Wellmark should be doing. I should reference that. That's kind of their provider management savings bucket here. So when we add these numbers up off of this $35 million, they've really saved the district about $15 million, let's call it. And then from there, that leaves us with $19 million of cost that goes through your plan design. So all your members are paying, as part of their insurance plan, deductibles, co-pays, and they're capped at a maximum out of pocket. You know, pretty nice benefit. And this is really the collective aggregate member burden or cost share that all your staff members have paid in those dollars. So that looks like it's about $2,833,000. So simply subtracting the billed charges from the net eligible to get off of the savings off the plan design gets you to that $16 million that we're referencing in terms of what the district has paid. And this 45.6% just simply references the amount of billed charges versus the paid amount. That's an efficiency of about 45 cents. For every dollar the district's paying, let's say 46 cents. You know, anything under 49% we consider pretty good. So we're seeing a pretty decent efficiency there. Okay. One last quick reference I want to point out before we go on to the dental insurance is this is the distribution of costs between what the school district picks up and the staff. Now, I just was explaining what the staff picks up in terms of co-pays and deductibles, but they also pay a contribution from the HR department, Kristen and Stacy here, you know, payroll deductions. So there's about $5.1 million of payroll deductions that come out for that. So the total aggregate cost of the district is about $8 million for the staff and about $12 million for the district when you figure out what the balance is. So 62% of the cost is picked up by the district, 38% is picked up by the staff. So what does that mean? Well, when we look at statistics and, you know, some benchmarking information, Milliman's one of the only ones that puts this out there. There's a 60-40 relationship on average between what an employer would, you know, pay for in terms of overall benefits and what the employees pick up. And again, the employees are picking up the cost of their payroll deduction plus whatever is coming out of the benefit plan itself. And we can see that this is pretty favorable, 62-38%. But one thing that this illustration does not capture is the really nice, what I call a premium holiday that the district has afforded the staff members for a few pay periods over the last couple of years. So that's not included in this analysis, but if it was, it would really show that the staff has a pretty good relative to benchmark percentage of cost share. Okay? So that's the medical. So I'm going to switch gears quickly. We've got one slide on the dental. Effectively, what we're showing you here is that the plan cost experience went up 10% over the prior year. A lot of this had to do with COVID-19 and dental offices being shut down when most people like to go in and get their preventative cleaning services and so forth back in April and May of last year. There's a little bit of an uptick of services that were happened during this current year to make up for that. Current dental trend is about 5%. So, I mean, this is still what we would expected. There isn't anything really alarming here that comes off this page. I really like this last slide. It's the funding summary. And what we're just really trying to show is how the plan performed against the budget. Okay? So you could, if you're kind of dialing down to the, I don't know if I can blow this up, but I guess I can't do a very good job of that. If you're dialing down to the very lower line here, it shows that there's a 6% cost change over last year, or about a $42.41 increase per employee. And how we simply calculate that is we're taking all the total expenses, taking out the employee contributions, and for the current year that just ended, there was about $13 million, $121,000, and we just divide that number out by the number of staff to get the $745.45. That's a $42 increase over where we were last year. Okay, so that's this lower section. What this section up here is the approximate surplus to budget because the plan did better than the budget than the expenses. And how we calculate that is we simply look at what the estimated district contributions were for this year, what the estimated staff contributions were from payroll deductions. So we funded the plan around $19,566,000. Then we look at our expenses. We've got fixed costs. That's $2 million for the medical and dental plan, paying at administration and insurance costs to Wellmark and to Delta Dental. Then you've got your rebates from your RX. That's a credit against your claims. It's about $1 million. The plan claims for the medical and dental is about $17,700,000. So that gets us to the total plan expenses of about $18,703,000. So simple math, we're just comparing this expense number against the budget, and it's showing that we're running about 95.6% of the budget, which is obviously favorable by $862,000. So, the the board and the recommendations by HR and finance, they've made some good recommendations on some of these premium holiday initiatives. And, this is one of those good ways when you manage a plan well, how you can return that back to, your staff for retention, recruitment, and those kinds of things. We all know that those are hard things to do in today's kind of economy here. So just wanted to point that out. And that comes on the heels of a fairly favorable 2019 and 2020 plan year. Very similar in terms of what the budget profile looked like. It was, if we go back in history, also favorable to budget. Okay, in terms of the things to look forward into next year, just as a reminder, a few months ago we kind of talked about what the budget looked like for this upcoming plan year, and that the medical plan did receive a 5.8% increase. So that was reflected on average for staff contribution changes. There was, however, no increase on the dental insurance costs. And we did add some enhancements in the dental plan around prevention and some oral wellness programs. And then through some negotiation, we helped the district get about a penny back on their life and base rates. But that's something that was also achieved for this upcoming year. And I think this is just something that we've also kind of mentioned in the past, but the PCORI fee, that's been extended through 2029. It's the patient-centered outcomes research fee, and the Cadillac tax has been repealed for high-cost healthcare plans. So thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for him? I have one. Back at the COVID-19 testing and treatment, we have vaccinations, treatment, and testing. Those testing, members tested is 1,284. It looks like the amount of time is from February 4th of last year, or this year.
Yeah.
No, last year, 2020,
Yeah,
till now. So
yes.
that's over a year. That's a year and a half, almost a year and a half. And those are all outside facilities, correct? So this is all staff that are under this benefit that have gone to the clinic, and then they file a claim, right?
Right. There could be people that that went to a testing facility that did say that they did not have insurance, and that would not be captured here.
Okay.
So in other words, they could very well have the school district
Sure.
insurance program, but went to a testing facility and just on their app or whatever, they said they didn't have the insurance. So those numbers would not be captured there.
Sure. Looks like you want to say something.
I'm Stacey Melligard. I'm the benefits specialist. I think I understand what you're really trying to ask. This does not include those tests that were done by us in the district.
In the
Our
district,
nurses.
right, because I'm assuming those are free, but wouldn't have been, well, they're not free, somebody's paying for them, but,
We got those tests free from the state, so they're not being billed through any insurance or anything. So this would
Gotcha.
be your urgent care and stuff like that. These ones.
okay. Thank you, that was it. Anybody, any other further questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Madam President, just a quick comment. I really want to express some thanks and gratitude to Mason and his crew at the Hayes Company. Kristen talked about this a little bit earlier. The district has a lot of partners that they use. And Mason and his team really add value to the district in its ability to not only provide the best benefits we can for the money that we are utilizing and the staff is utilizing, but also for cash management. You saw the really good analytical detail to his information, how accurate their numbers are, and that's really important to the district from a financial management standpoint. So, Mason, thanks to you and your crew for all you do, and it really makes a big difference to the district.
Thanks, Coy. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, board members. Appreciate it. You got the B team tonight, though.
Well, thank you. All right. Information item, Albert's Companies Foundation, donation to Stevens High. Who is going to speak on that? Or do we just want to?
It's really just an information item for the board, alerting that a donation was given to Stevens High School. And talking to Principal Hafner, she stated that they plan to put those dollars towards new choir robes.
Great, thank you. All right, and your superintendent report, please.
Thank you, President Thomas. A very brief report tonight. On October 20th, I held my first Community Advisory Council meeting of the year. I look forward to working with this group this coming school year, particularly as we move into strategic planning. I hope that they are able to be and serve as a liaison from the sectors of the community they come from and the strategic plan committee. At the end of the week, I visited South Park and Wilson and joined Wilson students and staff on their Red Ribbon Week walk through the neighborhood, and then close the week with an Indigenous Education Task Force meeting. Last week, Tuesday and Wednesday, I met with my large school group superintendent colleagues who educate 85% of South Dakota's students, and we held our annual fall retreat. We use this retreat to write our legislative positions in advance of the legislative session. I will just highlight that every single large school district, of which there are 25 of us, is struggling with staff shortages, substitute shortages, and food service supply chain issues. I closed the week with visits to Knollwood for their Steam Oween Day. It was lots of fun. And then ended the day at South Park at their invitation for their end of the day sing-along out on their field. And it was really nice to see staff out there, kids out there, and a lot of families joined as well. We continue to increase the number of substitutes and have 7 going through the onboarding process this week. And on a final note, I want to welcome our student representatives. You both did a great job tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, I would agree as well. Thank you, Dr. Simon. Before going into executive, Brianna put her hand up.
Yes, I have a point of personal privilege.
Okay, speaking to the mic a little bit closer.
Sorry.
Point of privilege.
I have a paper typed. It will be a low 2.5 minutes, Jim. So if you want to go ahead and start the timer. No. As much as I have enjoyed my time on the Rapid City Area School Board, I have to announce that my time serving will be coming to an end as we are moving out of my school board area because I refuse to live in a home that robs my peace of mind and keeps my family and I from attaining goals that we have set. My neighborhood has become increasingly unsafe, and my heart goes out to those who live in even worse areas of town. I commend our police force in their efforts, but it's out of control. We've experienced murders down the street, gang shootouts outside of our door, and multiple interactions with aggressive homeless people. I don't think anyone knows what the solution is, but I know things need to change. Parents, pour into your children and set them up for success. I'm sorry, I can't finish this. I'm super upset. Just to summarize.
That's okay. Take a minute.
You want to read it for me? Will I cry silently over here?
Parents, keep fighting. Teach them how to balance a checkbook and pay their taxes. Sorry, did I skip it? Parents, pour into your children, set them up for success, teach them how to respect their elders and their country, teach them how to become functioning members of society who value human life. Parents, spend time with your children, nurture their curiosity, learn something new with them. At this point, looking at our school system, I don't know how you have time in the day to connect with your children. Children spend all day learning how to be tested, how to fit in with what someone in a boardroom far away declares to be the correct way to learn. Parents, keep fighting that teachers are to teach them how to teach them how to balance a checkbook, pay their taxes instead of critical race theory. Teach them how to work with their hands and cook instead of filling in bubbles on a standardized test. Teach them the importance of our Constitution and the Bill of Rights instead of how to be easy influenced by TikTok and social fads. Teach them the real history of our country, the good and the bad, instead of whatever version the South Dakota Department of Education wants them to learn. Teach them to think for themselves, weigh their own risks, and make educated decisions. You are more capable than you know. Please know that this decision was not an easy one to make, but it is the best for myself and my family, and God and family are above all. I believe in this board, and I know we all want what is best for the children of Rapid City. She'll continue to serve in her full capacity until a replacement can be found and voted in. Thank you. Did you want me to say this part too? I will say that one of my flaws as a human being is the tendency to be very black and white with no room for gray areas. Tonight was a perfect illustration of one of the many learning experiences I have had while serving on this board. Thank you all for this opportunity. We will miss you very much, Brianna. You've been of great service to the children here and to this board. We will announce later our plans on how to accept applications and how the interviews will go, and of course Brianna will serve until someone is appointed. Now we will be going into executive session for South Dakota Codified Law. Wait, I need a motion and a second, don't I? So moved.
Second.
And Deb, to go into executive session, for South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2.1, discussing qualifications, and South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2.3, consulting with legal counsel. And there will be no further business afterwards. Thank you, everyone, for coming.